The heart attack came without warning on a Tuesday morning. One moment I was watering my prized orchids, the next I was on the floor of my greenhouse, crushing the delicate petals as I fell. If my neighbor hadn't heard the crash of breaking pottery, I might not have survived. Mrs. Caldwell, you're very lucky, Dr. Martinez explained as I lay in the cardiac ICU, surrounded by beeping machines and the antiseptic smell of hospital air. The blockage was severe. We'll need to keep you here for at least a week, possibly longer. My son Kevin arrived within hours, his face pale with worry. Behind him stood his wife Tiffany, scrolling through her phone with the practiced indifference of someone who viewed other people's medical emergencies as inconveniences. Mom, thank God you're okay, Kevin said, squeezing my hand. I was so scared when the hospital called. The doctors say I'll recover fully, I assured him, though speaking was still difficult. It'll just take time. Tiffany finally looked up from her screen. How much time? Because Kevin's supposed to start his new project next week, and we can't keep running back and forth to the hospital. I'd grown accustomed to Tiffany's selfishness over the 3 years she'd been married to my son, but her complete lack of concern still stung. Kevin had fallen for her during a vulnerable period after his divorce, mesmerized by her youth and beauty. At 28, she was 15 years younger than him and treated his 43-year-old mother like an ancient relic. Tiffany, please, Kevin said quietly. Mom just had a heart attack. I know, and I'm sorry, but we have our own lives to consider. She's in good hands here. There's nothing we can do by hovering around. Dr. Martinez frowned at her callousness but maintained his professional demeanor. Mrs. Caldwell will need support during her recovery. Heart attacks can be traumatic experiences, both physically and emotionally. Of course, Kevin said quickly. Whatever she needs. Over the next few days, Kevin visited faithfully, bringing flowers and magazines, updating me on his work and their plans. Tiffany came twice, both times complaining about the parking fees and the uncomfortable chairs. This place is so depressing, she announced during her second visit, wrinkling her nose at the hospital decor. At least when you get out, you can finally redecorate that old house. All that antique furniture makes it feel like a museum. My antique furniture. The pieces Arthur and I had collected over 40 years of marriage. The Victorian dining set we'd found at an estate sale in Savannah. The Chippendale secretary desk that had belonged to his grandmother. The Louis XVI armoire we'd discovered in a dusty shop in New Orleans during our anniversary trip. Those pieces have history, Tiffany. They're part of our family story. They're old and ugly, she said bluntly. Kevin agrees with me. Don't you, honey? Kevin looked uncomfortable. Some of it is a bit outdated, Mom. Maybe when you're feeling better, we could help you modernize a little. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of their expectations. They saw my beloved antiques as obstacles to their vision of a sleek, contemporary inheritance. We'll discuss it when I'm home, I said diplomatically. On my 5th day in the hospital, as I was finally starting to feel human again, my phone buzzed with a text from Tiffany. Surprise. We're having the old furniture picked up today. Time for a fresh start. Smiling face. My blood pressure monitor immediately started beeping alarms. I called Kevin, my hands shaking with more than just physical weakness. Kevin, what is Tiffany talking about? What furniture pickup? Mom, calm down. We found a dealer who specializes in antiques. He's giving us a fair price for the pieces. We thought it would be easier to handle while you're recovering. You thought wrong. That's my furniture, Kevin. My property. You have no right to sell it. Mom, you're being dramatic. It's just furniture. The money will help with your medical bills. Just furniture. 40 years of careful collecting, pieces that held memories of Arthur and our life together, dismissed as just furniture. Stop the sale immediately, I demanded. It's too late. The dealer is coming this afternoon. Mom, this is for the best. You'll see. I hung up and immediately called my lawyer, Harrison Webb, who had handled Arthur's estate and my affairs for the past decade. Harrison, I need you to stop a sale in progress. My daughter-in-law is selling my personal property without permission. That's theft, Lorraine. Are you certain you didn't give consent? Absolutely certain. I'm in the hospital recovering from a heart attack, and they're using my absence to steal from me. I'll contact the dealer immediately and inform them the sale is unauthorized. Do you have documentation proving ownership? Insurance appraisals, purchase receipts, and photos going back 20 years. Everything is in my safe deposit box. Perfect. I'll also prepare a cease and desist order. If they've already sold anything, we'll pursue criminal charges. 20 minutes after I spoke with Harrison, my phone exploded with angry texts from Tiffany. Your lawyer is ruining everything. The dealer says he can't buy anything now. We were finally getting rid of your junk and you had to interfere. Kevin is furious with you for embarrassing us. Finally getting rid of your junk. There it was, in writing. Her complete contempt for my most precious possessions. I screenshot every message and forwarded them to Harrison, then made a decision that surprised even me. I called my nurse. I want to discharge myself. Mrs. Caldwell, you're not ready for discharge. Dr. Martinez wants to monitor you for at least 2 more days. I'm checking myself out against medical advice. Please prepare the paperwork. Dr. Martinez tried to convince me to stay, but I was determined. I had to protect what was left of my home and my memories. The taxi ride home felt like traveling through a war zone. I kept expecting to see moving trucks and empty rooms. Instead, I found my house exactly as I'd left it, except for Tiffany's car in my driveway and the sound of voices coming from my living room. I let myself in quietly and followed the voices to find Tiffany giving a tour to a well-dressed man with a tablet and measuring tape. This dining set is probably 1890s, she was saying, running her hand over Arthur's grandmother's table. Heavy Victorian style. Not really our taste, but someone might want it. Actually, this is quite valuable, the man replied. Late Victorian mahogany with original upholstery. In this condition, it could bring $15,000 to $20,000 at auction. My jaw dropped. $20,000? I'd known the set was valuable, but I had no idea it had appreciated so much. Even better, Tiffany said greedily. What about that secretary desk? 18th century Chippendale. Possibly original. This could be worth $30,000 or more, depending on provenance. I stepped into the room. It has excellent provenance. It belonged to the Whitmore family of Charleston for 6 generations before my husband inherited it. Both Tiffany and the dealer turned in shock. Tiffany's face went white when she saw me. Lorraine, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in the hospital. Protecting my property from thieves. The dealer looked confused. I'm sorry, but are you the homeowner? This young lady said she had authority to sell these pieces. This young lady lied. I'm Lorraine Caldwell, and this is my house and my furniture. She has no authority to sell anything. The dealer immediately began packing up his equipment. I apologize for the confusion. I'll need to see proper documentation before proceeding with any transaction. Wait. Tiffany protested. She's confused. She just had a heart attack. Kevin gave me permission. Kevin doesn't own this house or its contents, I said firmly. And even if he did, married children don't automatically have the right to sell their parents' belongings. The dealer left quickly, clearly wanting no part of what was obviously a family dispute with legal implications. You ruined everything. Tiffany screamed once we were alone. That furniture is just sitting here collecting dust. You're going to die soon anyway, so why not let us benefit from it now? Because it's not yours to sell. Because you have no respect for its history or meaning. And because selling my belongings while I'm hospitalized is theft. It's not theft. Kevin is your son. We're your family. Family doesn't steal from each other, Tiffany. Kevin arrived an hour later, having been summoned by Tiffany's hysterical phone calls. He found me sitting in Arthur's favorite chair, surrounded by the antiques she'd tried to steal. Mom, you shouldn't have left the hospital. Your health is more important than furniture. My health will recover. My trust in my family won't, apparently. We were trying to help. The money from the sale would have covered your medical expenses. Kevin, do you have any idea what these pieces are actually worth? He shrugged. A few thousand, maybe. The dining set alone is worth $20,000. The Chippendale desk is worth $30,000. The Louis XVI armoire that Tiffany called ugly is worth $40,000. Kevin's mouth fell open. That's impossible. It's documented in my insurance appraisals. The total collection is valued at over $200,000. The color drained from his face as he realized the magnitude of what they'd almost done. $200,000, he whispered. $200,000 that your wife was planning to sell without my knowledge or consent while I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed. Tiffany, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly exploded. You never told us they were worth that much. How were we supposed to know? You weren't supposed to sell them at all. I shouted back. They don't belong to you. But Kevin is your only child. They'll be his eventually anyway. Will they? Because right now I'm reconsidering my entire estate plan. Kevin looked panicked. Mom, please. Tiffany made a mistake, but she meant well. Did she? Because her text messages suggest otherwise. Harrison has copies of everything she wrote, including her comment about finally getting rid of my junk. You saved her texts? Kevin asked. Evidence, I said simply. Harrison advised me to document everything. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. Harrison filed charges for attempted theft, fraud, and elder abuse. The screenshots of Tiffany's texts, combined with the dealer's testimony about her false claims of authority, made for a compelling case. Tiffany hired a lawyer who tried to argue that she'd acted with good intentions, believing she had implicit permission. But her own messages contradicted that defense, revealing her contempt for me and her eagerness to profit from my hospitalization. The prosecutor was particularly interested in the elder abuse angle. Mrs. Caldwell was in intensive care, fighting for her life, and the defendant used that vulnerability to attempt to steal valuable property. This is exactly the kind of case we take seriously. Kevin begged me to drop the charges, but I refused. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. And you need to learn that choosing her over your own mother has consequences too. The trial lasted 3 days. Tiffany's lawyer painted her as a young woman who'd made an honest mistake, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 2 years in prison, noting the particular cruelty of targeting someone who was hospitalized. The defendant showed a callous disregard for the victim's well-being and property rights during a time of extreme vulnerability. Kevin filed for divorce while Tiffany was awaiting sentencing. I can't believe I was married to someone capable of this, he told me. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you. You chose to believe her over me, Kevin. That hurt more than the attempted theft. How do I make this right? By learning to recognize manipulative people before you marry them. And by remembering that your mother's love isn't conditional on what you might inherit someday. Tiffany served 18 months of her sentence before being released on parole. Last I heard, she was working at a retail store and living with her parents. Kevin and I slowly rebuilt our relationship, though it took time for me to trust his judgment again. As for my antique collection, it remains exactly where it belongs, in my home, surrounded by memories of Arthur and our life together. I've updated my will to donate the entire collection to the local historical society after my death. They'll appreciate the craftsmanship and preserve the pieces for future generations. Sometimes I run my hands over the smooth mahogany of the Chippendale desk and remember Tiffany's dismissive words about old junk. She never understood that some things are valuable not because of their price tag, but because of the love and history they represent. The heart attack was a setback, but discovering my daughter-in-law's true nature was, in its own way, a gift. It taught me to protect what matters most, not just my possessions, but my dignity and my right to be treated with respect. And it taught me that sometimes the best way to handle family betrayal is through the justice system. Some lessons can only be learned behind bars.